Good evening everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Play of Pokémon Sleep. This is my free-to-play account where I try to use all the best practices that I've learned from playing on my primary account since day one of this game over a year ago. So far this Let's Play has been kind of crazy. I've had some ridiculous luck and it's going quite nicely, and it's just exciting to document this on a daily basis. So the first big goal on this playthrough is to establish a very strong water type team. Suicune has been a big part of that strategy, and not only did I manage to find a base Suicune here as a free to play, having started only 3 weeks ago, I also managed to catch a second Suicune by Dumblock, which essentially was a 1 in 81 odds of catching, and that turned out to be just slightly better than my base Suicune. But I've already spent seeds on the base Suicune, so the better Suicune will be in my bag. Maybe sometime in the future, trading is introduced, then potentially I got some good juice to trade for something else. We'll just have to put a hold on that and see what happens. So yeah, this weekend triggered, so I actually have a lot of goodies coming my way. And let's not wait any further. Let's hop into this review. In this video, we also have to peek a look at the main exchange and really make a strategy there for the last couple of days. Overall, I'm just looking to find as many Suicune candies or candies that I can use on my Suicune as possible. Right now, it is the best Pokemon that I have altogether on this whole save file, so I feel pretty confident in just dumping as many candies into it as I can. And thankfully, I have managed to get it to level 25 already, and that means I have unlocked skill level up S. I have used 2 main skill seeds so far. I have a third one waiting and a sub skill seed, so Monday morning I got a level 6 Suicune on the way. Main skill, that is. Hey, Top Belly Banette. I do like me some new sleep styles. I am aiming towards the 110 sleep style dex goal, and at that point, I don't remember what happens, but at the very least, I do get to increase my cooking pot. I don't know, I don't think so, that the cooking will be a problem. For the most part this week, I've had too many ingredients, but I think it's because of the event bonus. For some reason, I thought this was an Igglybuff. Igglybuff is my primary target right now. It's even overtaken the Totodile because I have a decent Croconaw. I also have a couple Totodiles, and they kind of work nicely now together with Suicune. And if we have a look at the section here in the widget, we can see that I will have a main skill level 6 Suicune, and you can see these numbers. These numbers are just in order the number of qualifying Pokemon to additionally boost the helper boost feature. So 1 qualifying Pokemon is 5, 2 is 6, 3 is 8, 4 is 9, and if all Pokemon on your team are unique water types, you'll get a 12, not a boost, but a, what am I saying? 11 total extra productions per trigger. So that's, when it triggers, you get 11 productions. With Suicune, Croconaw, and Totodile, I am in the middle here, and 8 extra productions per trigger is pretty nice, so I'll take that. But yeah, no Igglybuff here, it seems. There's a Wooper. There's an Igglybuff, I like what I'm seeing, and we got an Ekans and a Slowpoke. That's even a new sleep style. I'll take it. That made me real happy to see that. There's no way I got my Wigglytuff here, though. I'm gonna catch it, hopefully. But oh man, I don't know if you guys saw, but I found a pretty busted Beware on my primary account today. And then yesterday I found a Suicune, and I also found a pretty strong Ditto in the recent couple of days too. So I don't know why all these really strong, pristine Pokemon have been clogged up in the queue like this, but they seem to just be waiting to be fed. So hopefully this Igglybuff is among them. I did talk a fair bit about Wigglytuff in one of these free-to-play series videos a couple of days ago, and I did find a skill level up M, skill trigger asset level 50 Igglybuff that I could potentially consider, but overall I do think it is worthwhile to go to 20, maybe 30 encounters, or not even encounters, but Befriended Igglybuff before you settle, just because the healer is such an important Pokemon. So yeah. Banette is a berry specialist, but it's very, very low on my list. I would say Ekans. It's not a bad Pokemon in general, but it's not the best either. Maybe C, maybe B tier, something like this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to prime this Igglybuff. I'm going to give it 2 Pokebiscuits and then see what happens. If it's still hungry, I'll give it the bonus. If it's all full, then it's ready for whenever it shows up next time. It's basically the only thing I can do here as a free-to-play. I don't have a premium bonus biscuit, so I actually can't guarantee this without potentially wasting a great biscuit, and I cannot do that. So thankfully, we rolled the 50-50 here where the Igglybuff do want to join us. And because Ekans is a berry specialist, I am going to give it a biscuit here because it's hungry. I talked a lot about in yesterday's video how I do not want to hunt anything besides my strict targets. The few exceptions will be berry specialists when they show up hungry like this, and I won't catch it, but I can spend 2 biscuits on a berry specialist that kind of could become relevant at some point in time, and I'm gonna go for it. So in this session, we did some progress on the Ekans. We claimed the Igglybuff, which is super nice, and we're gonna ignore the rest. So on average, with the amount of biscuits that I have available as a free-to-play, I get 30 total max from the point exchange, and then if I'm not mistaken, the average from the daily gift is around 10 Pokebiscuits per month. So if you look past any events or things like this, then you essentially have 40 biscuits per month. That's not a lot of biscuits. So I have talked at length about the biscuit drought is coming. The biscuit drought is coming. But just in this session, I used 3 biscuits. So, and that was 3 Pokebiscuits. I also used the bonus biscuit, but 3 biscuits is almost 2 to 3 times the actual rate that I should have available on average every day. Now it's a lot of math, but that's just the way you want to go if you want to optimize your gameplay to the fullest, which this Let's Play is all about. Like, what can you possibly do? Yeah, you also have to look past the free biscuits from rank up because that's not gonna happen on a regular basis. But yeah, what can you possibly accomplish on a free-to-play account if you have perfect knowledge, or as close to it as possible? Jolly Nature, I don't remember this one. I don't think it's good. It's probably speed down or something like this. Okay, let's just reiterate what I'm looking for in an Igglybuff. If I found somehow a berry finding Igglybuff that also has 2 or 3 triggers, I would consider it. If it's got 2 strong triggers like main skill chance up nature and skill trigger M in that second slot because the first slot is berry finding, that would be amazing. Like, then I would dump seeds into it, and I probably wouldn't hunt for a Gardevoir until like ultra late game. Otherwise, if I somehow can find 1 or 2 triggers as well as skill level up M, then I would feel confident in running a main skill level 5 Igglybuff after evolving it and the skill level up M, and then be in a little bit more of a rush to make it to Lapis Lakeside and start looking for the perfect long-term Gardevoir, which is a Pokemon I will spend a lot of resources on. Like, I want to knock out a couple of the key berry specialists. We got 1 or 2 for alligators. We got Walrein, Meganium, then eventually potentially also Typhlosion, maybe Ninetales. And then I just want to get Gardevoir because it's, whoa, Mono Honey. That is ridiculous. So it is level 7. So even if it's Slum here, we wouldn't see it yet. There's a gold skill. And this is what? Level 5. Is it going to be research experience or something? Or is it berry finding or skill level up M? Energy recovery bonus. What a troll. Skill trigger S again at level 50. This is a hat trick. This has happened multiple times now. Is ingredient finding down, EXP gains up? Not at all what I'm looking for. It's only got one trigger and that it's at level 50. Unless the Igglybuff would be a contestant for a long-term healer, then it makes no sense for me to really consider the level 50 here, because by then I will have unlocked Lapis, and at that point I can just go on a long hunt for alts and feel content at some point. So, I mean, the Igglybuff here, super exciting because it does bring us one more Pokemon closer to friendship level 10, which will give us a essentially 3 in 7 chance of potentially getting a viable Wiggly. And that is berry finding, skill level up M, or helping bonus. Either one of those 3, potentially also sleep EXP up. I would accept that in the case that all the rest is just like pristine. Like it has skill level up, no, what am I saying? It has skill trigger M, and the main skill chance up nature, and potentially some speed at level 50. If it then has the sleep EXP, that's fine. So I feel pretty... I have a pretty good tolerance for the variance in Igglybuff. I just need it to be good. And it needs to carry me into Lapis in that late game Gardevoir hunt, unless the overall skills and traits are just so strong that I don't really need to worry much about Gardevoir anytime soon. Essentially what's going on my primary account in terms of healing is I started hunting for Wigglytuff, I found a pretty good one, and then I learned Sylveon was a bit better, and I understood how important healers were, and so I went on a long hunt for Sylveon. I finally found it, and then just 4 or 5 weeks later, then Gardevoir was introduced as a new Pokemon and it power crept my Sylveon. And at that point, I'd found such a strong Sylveon that I'm not too worried about the Gardevoir, because like if you compare the Pokemon something like, let's see, this is super confusing to do in the camera, but let's say you have a gradient here for the Sylveon and the other gradient here is for Gardevoir. If you have a super pristine Sylveon, then it will be stronger than a weak Gardevoir, but a super strong Gardevoir is always better than any Sylveon. That's kind of how I look at it, and my Sylveon is pristine, so it really takes a lot to outdo it, and at that point that hunt is going to be like 50 rolls, something like this, so yeah, not looking too good. So in this video we also need to have a look at the exchange. I know for a lot of you guys this is a little bit of a big question to figure out, and it is for me too. So we have today into tomorrow and tomorrow into Monday, so that is 2 days. On average I seem to be getting like 40-50 mains on this free to play every day, so I have another 100 mains to spend, and that is 300 in total. I think at that point I probably, now do I have incense already? I do. Okay, that I am gonna spend on that final day. So then I don't have to worry about getting another incense, and if it shows up hungry, I'm not gonna even bother with a biscuit because there's no way I'll be able to... Yeah, maybe I should just wait. Like, there's no rush to get these candies. I don't want to spend my resources early, like I learned that lesson now with that second Suicune. And so, yeah, essentially there's nothing I need to do here until tomorrow, and that will be to put on a Suicune incense for the last session, Sunday into Monday. And then on Monday, when everything's said and done, I've done the last session and I've counted all the mains, and we can go back into the shop here and just clear out as much stuff as we can. So I think that is my current thought on it. I also think it is pretty surprising that I'm currently at 520,000 Snorlax strength. It's kind of ridiculous. That's comparable to like a Monday or Tuesday at my max rank primary account, so that is pretty cool. And then, yeah, I want to have a look at my team a little bit because I'm just steadily trying to level up these Pokemon, and any handy candy that I can get my hands on, I'm just dumping into Suicune because currently this is my best Pokemon. It's just the state of this playthrough. This Croconaw is pretty strong too, and I think what I've decided on here is I think I want to try to get this to level 25. I do get some inventory, which is kind of nice to carry into new weeks because inventory L is a big step up. Like if I evolve this Croconaw to Feraligatr, it will get an additional 5 into the carry limit, and another 18 on top of that is 30, what? 33? No, 43? Yeah, 43. That's ridiculous. So at that point, those berries kind of matter. And I guess to a little bit the ingredients, but not much. But yeah, so you can carry stuff into the new week. And it is going to be a while until I find a berry finding Totodile, I think, that is viable, that I will start using. And so I may reconsider this at some point and keep it a Croconaw, but it's just long term, I probably would like to have a Croconaw on the team, because then you get that additional overstacking potential with the Suicune, if that's something I would like to do. But yeah, it's just a little bit hard to really think this far ahead. I probably have to make some spreadsheet or something and like decipher all the outcomes here, but at least for now, I don't have the resources to evolve it, so I don't even have the choice. But I do think getting this thing to level 25 and then consider it would be a big consideration. Croconaw is, as you can see, 42 minutes is decently fast. What I would be curious to see though, if we could in this video, take a look at Croconaw. And what is interesting is I can zero out these sub-skills. So we got none here and here. Okay, the nature that I have is brave, actually. That's the nature right here. And then we have the helping speed M in the first slot. And it has evolved once. It is currently level 20. And it also has the inventory L coming up. Man, this calculator stuff is very exciting. Look at this. My in-game profile here says 42 minutes and 11 seconds, and my calculator, based on the stuff that I plotted in here, says 42 minutes and 12 seconds. So it's basically a rounding error somewhere in there, but it's very accurate. Now, what I am curious is if I imagine it is possible to have a Feraligatr at level 20, the only thing that changes here is I evolve it as is. That went too fast even for me. Okay, Croconaw. Go back here. Yeah, there were multiple things I wanted to pay attention to. So the speed, the frequency, Feraligatr goes to 35 from 42. I think the other thing that changed here a little bit was the skill rate. Let's take a look at it. It goes up a little bit on Feraligatr. What about the ingredient rate? It's 25% on Croconaw. It's 25% too on the Feraligatr. So in this example, as you can see, the Croconaw is actually quite viable as a overstacking Pokemon. Ultimately, if you run Feraligatr, it's going to be much stronger on its own. But taking into consideration that Suicune can overstack these Pokemon with the skill, and then you can carry that overstacking into events. Okay, I also realized that some of you guys may not know what overstacking is, so I can briefly explain it. The Suicune's ability, Helper Boost, when it triggers, it will just generate a given number of productions for Pokemon on the whole team. So Helper Boost, the water type, instantly gives a set number of extra productions to all team members. The effect does not produce skill triggers. So for example, on my team right here, then if my Suicune is main skill level 6 and I have 3 qualifying Pokemon, so 1, 2, 3 unique water types, I'll have 3 qualifying Pokemon. Every time Suicune triggers, I get 8 extra productions, and it does not take into account the frequency, which is why Quagsire, which is super slow, which is why Slowking, which is super slow, and Slowbro get additional strength and productions compared to other Pokemon with Suicune's skill, because they're very slow, but it doesn't account for speed. It just says, okay, I want 8 productions on the Slowbro, I want 8 productions on the Quagsire, and 8 productions on the Slowking. What happens is, if you don't collect from Croconaw, the Totodile, and Pikachu, but keep clicking on the Suicune, every time this Helper Boost is triggered, it's just gonna stack 8 productions here, 8 productions there, 8 productions there, 8 productions there, and do that over and over and over and over again. And productions means basically either a batch of berries or ingredients. And for a berry specialist, that's primarily going to be a lot of berries. But at some point, you're going to hit the inventory limit. And at the point of the inventory limit, what happens is all the Pokemon that then have full inventories, excluding Suicune, because you're always tapping the Suicune, all the other Pokemon here with full inventories, they will enter what's called sneaky snacking. The only thing that they're producing are berries. And what's kind of cool is you can keep tapping the Suicune day in and day out and trigger the skill and not collect from the Croconaw and the 2 Totodile and the Pikachu. And all of those productions from Suicune that goes into all these, they just get stacked on top of that already full inventory. So we overstack the Pokemon. And the limit there is 999 berries and ingredients from the Helper Boost skill. And so one of the most powerful strategies in the game is to have a Suicune. You pop the Suicune, you don't touch the rest, and just overstack all these other Pokemon, and they eventually end up with 999 berries and ingredients just in their inventory. And then you can carry that into a new week, an event week potentially, and collect it, and then you get almost 1,000 stuff from Croconaw, from the Totodiles, and the Pikachu, and then you start off money like super high. The one thing to mention there is you get sneaky snacking from those other days. So essentially, my Cyan Beach strategy will be to let the Croconaw and potentially then the 2 Feraligators, they're just going to do sneaky snacking. That's the rule. Hence why I don't care about the cooking pot size or the ingredients bag size. Well, I care a little bit about the cooking pot size because that's so relatively cheap. You just spend like 2,000 Dream Shards and it gets like a bit bigger. But you can just do a sneaky snacking strategy where you pop Suicune a whole lot and pop your healer a lot. And those 3 other berry specialists, they just like keep at it. And I don't need to bother about the cooking. I don't need to bother about getting ingredients when it's a berry specialist. And I also event prep. And oh, did I mention I get sneaky snacking? Cyan Beach, that's favored. And overall, you get a lot of strength as long as they're healed. That's the one big thing. You also really don't get to appreciate their main skill, but Croconaw's got not a very strong skill. Overall though, on Feraligator, if you run it optimally, not overstacking, Feraligator's got a decent skill combo because it evolves twice, and 5.5% on the skill rate is actually ridiculous. It's half a skill specialist. And in this case, it's a lot faster than a lot of the skill specialists that would have this type of skill. So the whole point here is at some point in time, I will probably want to have 2 for alligators with berry finding, and preferably one of them is like decent. It's a good investment, like it works. And the second for alligator, when I go all in on it, it's going to be like a super cracked one of the best for alligators you ever seen, because that was the only thing I hunted for like 4 months straight. And at that point, I just need 3 Pokemon to be qualifying for this overstacking strategy. And that's kind of nice, because in the numbers here, if we bring back up the Suicune, we can see the difference between 3 and 4 qualifying Pokemon is relatively small. The difference is 8 or 9. Potentially having 5 qualifying Pokemon would be the best, but in that case, you probably would want a Slowbro and a Slowking. But at that point, you're not even overstacking, because you have to pop them because they're skill specialists and then they would heal the team. So most realistically, you would have the Suicune and then 3 other Pokemon that you can overstack, so berry specialists, and then you have a 5th rotational slot, either a healer the whole day, or maybe you can switch them out and do some things if you have a really strong healer to where you don't have to worry about energy anyway. So ultimately, the point I'm getting at here is with the ribbons too, the difference, as we compared a couple minutes ago, between Croconaw and Feraligatr, not that big. And it's the Pikachu that has a ribbon. Pikachu essentially is the same as Croconaw in the sense that it is a 2nd stage evolution. So if I can get the Pokemon that I want to keep as a Croconaw to 2,000 sleep hours, which is like, that takes a while, it's a couple months, but it can be done, then the Croconaw will be getting 7% increased production. And if I'm not mistaken, that stacks with this one for a total of 12%, something like this. Does that sound about right? I feel like I remembered 12 and 25. So 14 on the other one, 11. Yeah. So it's just going to get a flat 12% increase. And at that point, Croconaw is, for overstacking purposes, it's basically the same as a Feraligatr. The only big difference there would be the level, because that is what is making the difference here on the berry value. And so long term, it would be really nice to have, let's say, 1 or 2. At the very least, I want 1 like crazy Feraligatr. And then I would like to have a really strong Croconaw. So the super difficult point that I'm trying to make here, which is taking a lot to explain, I'm realizing, because I'm also trying to make this like suitable for those of you who are following the free-to-play series, you're a brand new player, and here I go just like shoot above every possible relatable thought with this game with some very deep stuff. So the overall question that I wanted to answer, should I evolve this Croconaw or not? And I think I should, in a twisted way, because then I short term can be having a decent Feraligatr here while I look for my first berry finding strong Totodile, which I can then do into Croconaw. And then eventually I found that really busted Feraligatr, which I can then switch this one out with, because this is not bad. It's got 2 speeds and inventory, which is great, but it's not berry finding. So I think actually, having said all of this out loud, what I will be doing is the following. You followed along with all the rambling here. This Croconaw is going to get evolved into Feraligatr. That will mean that I will have Suicune, Feraligatr, Totodile, and then I'll be looking for my first strong berry finding Totodile to evolve into Croconaw. That initial Croconaw will always stay a Croconaw. And one of the reasons is because I want to fuel as much sleep time into that as possible to get to that 2,000 mark. And while I do that, I want to find 1 or 2 more, like busted berry finding Totodiles that I can just put on the team long term, and ultimately that Totodile is the one that becomes for Alligator and the staple like primary water type berry specialist that I can bring around if I'm not doing the overstacking. But for the overstacking, that means that at any given point in time, I'll have between 8 and 9 qualifying Pokemon. So hope you found this interesting. I, for one, did not expect to go this in depth on this topic, but I think overall it was a good topic to cover. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow with another Pokemon Sleep video. And maybe there's a new series coming up tomorrow, a third parallel series. So stay tuned.